Let's talk about developer projects. A developer project is a lot like a snapshot, but instead of representing a live Salesforce account, a developer project represents some metadata files in a local folder on your computer. Now you can either connect a project to a snapshot or you can connect a snapshot to a project, depending on which way you want the metadata to flow. So to work with your project, just double-click. Now every project needs a folder where it's located. So here I've chosen as the parent my Documents folder, and the project folder name here is Demo Time, and I can open my project folder and you see it's empty currently. Now there's four main types of projects. They can either be in Metadata API file format or Salesforce DX file format. They can either be a static local folder on my machine, or they can also be connected to a content repository. So let's look at these different options we have for a project. Let's start out here in Metadata API file format for a static local folder. So one of the things I can do is I can populate my project with metadata files. So to do this, for example, I can select a Salesforce org, and then I can download metadata assets by package name, with a job list file, with a package XML file, or with a snapshot limits file. So if I do it by package name, I'll be able to select any one of the packages here, including all of the unpackaged data. Let's try a snapshot limits file. We don't really need to download that much for this project. So this is going to download just some classes and custom objects. So here's my assets that I've downloaded, and you can see if we open the project folder that they're also right here. And so once I've populated my project, that really just puts some files in a folder. It doesn't take a snapshot. So if you want to do reporting and metadata migrations, you do need a snapshot. So let's go to the Take a Snapshot tab. And just like that, we've taken a snapshot of that project. Okay, and now it's ready to go. And as you'll see here in a minute, we can use this for continuous integration or deploying metadata back and forth between real orgs or other projects. Before we do that, though, let's look at some of the other options for a developer project. So this project is also located in my Documents folder, but the folder name is the Help Movie, and it's in Salesforce DX file format, but it's a static local folder. So when you choose Salesforce DX file format, you get some interesting additional options. Let's look at those. So first of all, as you can see, my project is in DX format. I've got all of the extra detail here for objects and some of the other assets. And I can also populate the project right here, just the way I did with a local project by downloading other things, but I can also work with the project, using Salesforce DX. I can open the Macintosh terminal, takes me right to the correct folder, or I can open the local folder and use any of my developer tools here with Salesforce DX. One of the nice things I can do is I can push and pull source to a scratch org. Look at this, I can select one of my scratch orgs, and I can also create new scratch orgs right here from Manage Scratch Orgs, and I can see that I'm currently up to date with this scratch org. So let's make some changes. Let's go back to the project and let's create an Apex class. So here's the Apex class that I've just created. And now let's go to Push and Pull Source, refresh the status, and you see there's a local add, which is the Apex class that I just created. And so now let's push that into the scratch org. And so as soon as we do that, the scratch org is back up to date. And so now if I want to go to that scratch org, I just choose Open Remote Browser. And so here I am in my scratch org, and let's create an object and a field. Okay, and so just like that, I've created an object in my scratch org. Now let's go back to Snapshot. And let's refresh the status list. And you'll see there's a remote add. And when I added the field, it also made some changes to layout and a profile. So let's pull this metadata back to the local project. And so there we are back up to date. And so this is a really powerful system for building out all the different files and things that you want to work with here in your local project. And you can see there's the help movie object that I just created. So now don't forget to take a snapshot so that you can do metadata migrations and continuous integration here in the snapshot tool. All right, so there's a pretty good overview of what you can do with Salesforce DX projects. Now let's take a look at what you can do with an online content repository. So I've got another project over here. And as you can see, this one is set up with the Dreamhouse Salesforce example, and it's set for a remote repository in Salesforce DX file format. So when you choose remote repository, you get some different commands up here. And they're basically two tabs, the pull commands and the push commands. So the pull commands are whatever you need to do to bring your project down initially from your repo, and then whatever you need to do to update that project thereafter. And so in this particular case, it's very simple. You're going to connect to the Git example here, and then you're going to check out the package 2 beta. And this could be somewhat different based on whether you were using Git server or any of these different repos. We have example commands here for all of these different possibilities. And then to update the repo, you just do a pull. So let's go ahead and test this command line, make sure that it's working. And it is. So just like that, we pulled the Dreamhouse example down from Salesforce. The other thing you can do, of course, is you can open your project folder. And so here you are right here in Salesforce DX territory. And you can also open the Mac terminal. And it brings you up focused on that folder so you can start working immediately with any of your other developer tools. So this is really powerful. I mean, I'm using the browser, the command line, snapshot, and my local file system all together to build developer projects. Very flexible, very powerful. Okay, now the other thing you're going to need is some push commands. So if you want to write things to this repo, and you can just, again, use an example template to put the push commands together. And so just like that, we can take a snapshot of the Dreamhouse project. And there you go. We can now work with metadata deployments and continuous integration. So in the continuous integration movie, I go into a lot more detail and show you the repo being updated, how to set up a new repo, and really everything all about, your options over here. All right, so just like that, we've worked with 3 developer projects in Salesforce DX format, local metadata API format, and a content repository. And so once you've taken a snapshot, you can do all of the stuff that you're used to doing. You can do all the different reports on them. Of course, you can't do the live data reports because it's not actually a Salesforce org, but you can do all the other reporting. And you can push metadata into a project, or you can pull metadata out of a project, and it can be either on a repo or not on a repo, depending on how you set it up.